Good afternoon and welcome into Red Pill 101, episode 17, The Friend Zone. I'm your host, Pat Campbell, radio talk show host from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am joined by the one, the only rational male, Mr. Rollo Tomasi. Rollo, how you doing, buddy?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. I have to apologize for missing last week. I don't think Rollo told anybody, but I just before showtime got a really bad case of projectile vomiting that would not have been conducive to a
proper show.
Yes. Positive show.
Hindered a proper show. Yes.
But as sick as I was, I still listened to you do the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was good.
And what did you think of that? What did you think of that? What did you think of the show?
I like the way you broke it down. You're not as good by yourself as you are with me.
Yeah. I kind of.
On a serious note, there's some pacing issue there. But you're trying to do everything because you got multiple screens up there, and you're trying to handle the content and respond to the certain questions from the chat room as well. But no, it was good. I like the way you broke it down frame by frame.
I have a new appreciation for what you do on a regular basis. I totally understand why you have to have a studio full of people to help you produce a show, because it keeps you going, it keeps the flow going. And I think that in this age of like podcasting and everything, I think things are like I'm just trying to learn all this stuff as I go. I mean, I've only really been doing this for about a year, but
quick study.
Well, when we're doing the Red Man group and we've got like Donovan, taking phone calls, and it's like we have other, we're working as a team more or less, but doing it solo, man, yeah.
No, you're doing a good job. There's a bit of a learning curve, and this is like a crash course for you. But good stuff yesterday as well. So the friend zone, and this started. Somebody sent you. I don't know if it was a text or an email or what.
I get this a lot.
Rollo, help! I'm stuck in the friend zone. How do I get it out of it and into a relationship with this girl? First of all, explain what the friend zone is.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think there's a lot of different definitions of what the friend zone is, but I think you can sort of distill it down to a few things. Women don't like the idea of the friend zone. So let's just start out with that right now. Women are going to define the friend zone as something that's a little bit different than what guys are going to. Now, when guys are describing the friend zone, they usually were trying to what we call jump ladders. Okay. There's the friendship. I guess you're not really familiar with ladder theory, are you?
No.
Ladder theory is a very old red pill concept. I mean, like way old. We're talking like the late 90s, early 2000s old. And what it is it's this concept that women have basically two ladders. They have guys that are in the friend zone or the friendship ladder, and then they have the guys that are on the intimate ladder. Okay. And those are the guys that they have sex with and the guys that they want to be intimate with, whereas the other guys that they have on the other ladder. And if you kind of climb up this ladder with them, like on this idea of, well, you are a more valuable friend than Joe, and Joe's a little bit stepped down on that ladder, but those ladders kind of change according to whether or not you are an intimate of that woman or you are a friend of that woman. And so what guys do is they try to jump ladders, right? So when a friendship guy tries to jump a ladder, if he does so, he falls all the way down to the bottom of the ladder. Okay. So if he doesn't make it all the way across, if he tries to jump out of the friend zone or off the friendship ladder into, I can't believe I'm talking about ladder theory. Then if he doesn't make it, or if she doesn't accept him as an intimate, then he falls all the way to the bottom of the friendship ladder, and then he has to work himself back up, and then maybe he jumps across again. That's just the graphic illustration of ladder theory. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's what I mean. Is
when you were on my local program, you said something that was very early on. You said women have two kind of friends.
Yep.
Boyfriends and girlfriends. If you're not having sex with her, you're her girlfriend.
You're her girlfriend.
Yeah, that just hit everybody. It's like boom.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. People and people don't like that because people want to, like, especially guys who have been, most guys today have been conditioned from a very early age. And I usually peg this right around 5 years of age, when little kids are sponges, right? That's when we're absorbing everything, and we sort of define our own identities, and we understand how the world around us works, right? And that's when if you know anything about child psychology, that's when we're supposed to be like feeding our children the most, right? I mean, feeding them psychologically and how to help them develop into whoever they're going to be, right? Well, from that age, we understand like what boys are and what girls are, and how we interact with our little male friends is different than how we interact with our little female friends, right? And there's for the most part, when kids are very young, the boys stay away from the girls. Like the girls have cooties, right? The girls are the ones that they don't have anything to do with. And if you're a little boy that likes any of the girls, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you probably know, children can be very, very brutal.
Right.
So what we do is, and the reason I'm sort of rewinding this all the way down here is because what we do when we're interacting with our male friends is different from what we do when we interact with our female friends. And there's this idea that boys should always defer to the girls. We should always do what the girls want us to do, right? I mean, when we're little kids, we're supposed to carry their books home from school, right? Or we're never supposed to hit a girl. You're always supposed to be as polite. You're just supposed to respect girls just for the sake of respecting girls, which of course then develops into, well, men just have to have a default respect for women, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that little boys have little friends who are boys as well, and they interact with them differently than if they were to have friends that are girls. Right. But our friendship model, or our concepts of friendship, are almost always developed, or almost based, I should say, on our intrasexual friendships, and what that's same-sex friendships. Right. Okay, and so what happens is both sexes believe, erroneously, we believe that the other sex shares the same mutual concept of friendship that the other one does. It's very similar to when we talk about the differences in concepts between love, right? Right. There's differences. There's gender differences in understanding friendships. There's gender differences in understanding love. There's gender differences in understanding respect. We've talked about that as well. And those are just three of many other ones we should probably get into.
There's degrees of friendship too.
Yeah. Well, just like what we were saying a minute ago, on the ladder theory. There's the guy that's up here and a really good friend, and there's another guy that might be a little bit more, and then there's the intimate who is, I want to have him on a Saturday night, and then there's the intimate guy who's like, I want him right now, and he's going to be my husband, kind of thing. Right. Okay. So you got to understand ladder theory. So, anyways, when I say that women have boyfriends and girlfriends, and if you're not having sex with her, then you are her girlfriend. Why do I say that? Well, this is a really good way to define the two. Well, the reason for that is because women do not see women have those two ladders. Exactly what I was just saying before is there are guys that she wants to have sex with and the guys that she wants to be intimate with, and then there's the guys who are sweet and nice and will do things for her, and she knows that she has agency over, but she doesn't want to have sex with them, and she doesn't want them to be intimate with them. And so what happens is, because men and women have these kind of same-sex models of friendship, what happens is there are guys that are on the friend ladder, and then there's guys that are on the intimates ladder. Right. So what happens is, when women are dealing with other women, they have sort of a set of behaviors or a set of understandings. You and I have talked about this before, and this, the easiest way I can explain this is that women and men have differing ways of communicating, right? We've talked about men as overt communication, right? It's information based. It's not about feelings. It's more about us conveying information to each other. Whereas women is more about feelings. Women have a higher, I think, threshold for understanding communications, right? I think they understand sub-communications more. I mean, this is a physiological, neurological, part of women's evolved firmware, which is that they will get together with their girlfriends just to communicate, right? They'll go and have coffees just so they can sit across the table from each other. And when women communicate, right, they're sitting across the table and they're looking at each other's faces and they're relating, what they feel about things, and they prioritize the context of that communication above the content. So it's, how did this make them feel? And that's how they communicate, right? That's how they communicate. And when the women are together,
they're always gathering information on each other to use against each other.
Yeah, they are. But when they prioritize the importance of that conversation, it's prioritized on how that communication made them feel. Men, it's what information they prioritize the content. Women prioritize the context. Okay, so that's between the two. So when men are talking, we don't talk face to face. We're both kind of looking out at the game or whatever. We're watching whatever's going on. Women talk, men do, right? So when men get together and they communicate as friends, they usually have a project, or they have a shared interest, or they all both like to go fishing, or they both like to do whatever, right? And their communicating begins based on the project or whatever the hobby is that they share, or whatever it is that they like to do together. And then as a byproduct of that, they end up communicating, right? So it's they prioritize the information, and then the feeling might come after that, if at all. For women, it's the feeling comes first and then the information. And that's the most simplest way I can do that. Now, why am I saying that? The reason I'm saying that is because women, when they're talking with women, when they're talking with their girlfriends, that's what is expected of them. So when guys cross over into that, because we're taught at a very early age that we're supposed to defer to women, and then as part of that, everything that is female is correct. So the way that a woman communicates with other women is how a man should communicate with women, right? So the guys will have one way that they talk about, they'll talk and they'll communicate with their friends, and then when they are communicating with a girlfriend, they are switching over into a form of communication, or a form of just being, just like they almost wear a mask. It's like they have to become that girlfriend. And the reason I say this is because when guys tell me that they totally believe that men and women can be friends, first thing I ask them, I said, well, what do you do? What do you do with your friend? Do you go out to, first of all, is your girlfriend or your wife okay with that? Or is it okay for you to have that female friend? What do you do with her? And then they'll say, oh, well, we hang out. Well, what does hang out mean? Does that mean we'll go to the mall, or we sit and we talk, or that kind of stuff? I'm like, do you do the same thing with your girlfriend that you do with your male friends? And it's almost unanimously, it's never, because there's a whole different context. So it's like, guys, when they switch over into that, when they accept the idea that men and women can be friends, they change themselves. They change something about them so that they can communicate, and that they can interact based on a different model, on a feminine model, as opposed to the male model. So when guys are getting together and they're hanging out and they're doing things, like there are things that a woman can do for her with her male friend that guy would get pissed off about. Like that guy would, like, this, if his male friends did the same thing that his female friend did, they would get in a fist fight. Okay?
Give me an example.
Because, well, first of all, we tend to forgive women for certain things, like being late, right? Or if she's got to cancel something, or if she's got like say you've got something planned. First of all, I highly doubt that guys do the same kinds of things with their girlfriends that they do with their male friends. Now, guys will say, well, yeah, we go to the game and we do this. No, you don't. And if you do, that girl's probably trying to get into your good graces. And there's always, like, I hate to use this idea of, like, did you see that part in Harry Met Sally, that movie Harry Met Sally? It's a very famous thing where the two of them get together, and I forget who it was. Billy Crystal was saying something to the effect that, men and women can't be friends. He said, why? Right. Well, because I have many friends. Like, no, you don't. You just think that you do. Right. because the sex thing always gets in the way, and it does. It always gets in the way. Most guys, when they have a girlfriend or a girlfriend, when they have a female friend, it is almost always the result of a guy trying to make that ladder jump. He's the guy who wanted to go from being a friend in the friend zone to becoming an intimate with that woman. And so what happens is he fails that, he drops down, and then he has to work his way back up. And usually what these guys end up falling into, what I call the sniper mentality, right? If they could just figure out how they can prove themselves to be the perfect boyfriend, if they could just, she gives them the let's just be friends, the LJBF, right? It's the let's just be friends rejection. And anybody watching this, and anybody in the chat right now, if you have ever gotten the let's just be friends rejection, understand it is a rejection. You were rejected. Okay, it might sound like
they're trying to let you down easy, but
they're trying to let you down.
It's a rejection,
easy, but it is a rejection. Yep. But don't think of it as an actual offer of friendship, because that's why women have to maintain that ego integrity all the time. They want to always believe that they are likable. Okay, so they don't want to believe that some man somewhere, or really anyone, but I mean, I guess it's funny is I think that women would be more likely to accept a female enemy than a male enemy, because male attention is something that lifts them up a little bit more than female attention. Remember, we were talking about how attention is the coin of the realm in girl world. If they don't have the attention of some evil, some bitch, she just is bitchy to me, they don't care about that. But God forbid there's a man somewhere on planet Earth that might not like her. because what that is that's word of mouth, right? That's social proof. So if a guy says, oh, she's a bitch or she's a slut or she's whatever, right? That's a strike against her brand. And she might not even have a brand. She might not even be all that hot, but in her head, she thinks that it's a strike against her ego. And so women will, that's why let's just be friends is the default answer, the default rejection for women, because it sounds right. I mean, it's funny. I tell my daughter this all the time. I said, if there's a guy that wants to get with you and he's a friend and he wants to get with you and you reject him, don't give him that. Let's just be friends. Just say, hey, look, I don't see you that way. Just be straight up with him and give him a straight up rejection instead of leading him on. Like, well, what do you mean? You know, that doesn't mean I don't like him. I still want to have him as a friend. It's like, no, you just want to have him as an orbiter. You want to have him in your circle. You want to have this guy as still being the source of attention that he was before, but you just simply don't want him to think that you want to.
They also keep them like you're my B list over here. If I make it to 30 and I'm still not married, maybe the two of us can hook up. One of those deals. It's like they're B team or C team in some cases.
Right. Well, and that's where the friend zone comes from. And I'll get to Remy here in just a second. Thanks for that.
Let me ask you a question on this because I want to get to this. Rollo Tomasi, the rational male. What do you say about men and women? Can men and women be just friends?
No, not in the way. Let's say this. Not in the way that most people believe that men and women can be friends, because women believe that men and women can be friends because it serves their interests. Okay, it serves the interest of that. Well, first of all, even if there was no resource transfers or there was no mutual interest or no compromise between the two of them, that guy is always still going to be worth something as far as attention is concerned. Now, people will say, well, what if the guy's a schlubby little beta? Yeah, his attention is not as valuable as somebody who is like better looking or somebody who's more. There's different degrees of value of that attention.
Sure.
But as far as when it comes to friendship, like I said, the reason that men and women cannot be friends is because our idea of friendship is based on our same-sex friendships.
Right.
So that's why I always ask guys, so, okay, well, if you say you have a girlfriend, what is it that you do? Right. And they will almost unanimously always say that they don't do the same things with their girlfriends that they do with their guy friends. And then almost always it's like, well, I wanted to get with her, but I couldn't. Right. And then every once in a while, now here's what's going to happen is like, everybody is going to say, well, that's bullshit. I have girlfriends. I met one in college and we're still great friends to this day. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. But I would challenge anybody who thinks that.
I was going through my head all of the women that I've known or worked with over the years. You know, there's only one. When I started teaching years ago, there was an older lady who probably at the time, I don't know, was maybe 50-ish. Okay, so there's no way there's any sexual tension there, any sexual desire. She was a good friend. She was a mentor. But I'm back to what you said though too. I still wasn't a friend with her the way I'd be a friend with a guy.
Right. Well, I'll give you another example. Okay. I have, in the past, I've had a female friend who was older than me, quite a bit older than me, actually. And she was a mentor to me. She used to teach me flamenco guitar because I studied Latin and flamenco guitar for a while. Wow. Yeah. And I did for about 8 years. And she was a professional. She was fantastic. And I liked her a lot. Right. I just didn't want to have sex with her or anything, but I liked her a lot, but we shared something in common, just like guys do, right? We had a thing. We had something that we would come together for so that we would focus on that. And we sort of developed a friendship after that but it was like almost like a male modeled friendship, right? It's something that I would have. It's like a thing that I would do with my friends, like play guitar or go do whatever, right? So there's that. I don't believe that men and women can be friends based on the same model as their same-sex friendship. And that's what I think that everybody thinks that I'm just being this misogynist asshole every time I talk about like, well, men and women can't be friends. Well, they can't be friends in the same context as your same-sex friends, because guys will always make compromises for their girlfriends, right?
You have to make some sort of an accommodation because she's female, right?
And it's like,
sorry, get to that check because you want to get to the check.
Yeah, okay. I got a couple of them here. I missed that one. Sorry, Rami. Let me go grab that one. Okay. Remy asks, if a woman were once intimate with, gives the friend zone speech and you decline and go no contact, are you still in the friend zone? No, I would say no. That's actually part of this conversation I wanted to get to today is what should you do with a let's just be friends rejection, right? I think that it's very important to understand that you are not actually, it's not an actual olive branch of friendship.
It's not an offer. It's a rejection.
It's a rejection, yeah, and see it as the rejection that it is. I think that what guys do is they think that, oh, I blew it. I had my chance and I took the shot and I missed, right? Like I said, the sniper mentality. And they go back and they actually, like, this is what most beta blue pill guys will do, is they will take that offer of friendship as a sincere gesture of friendship. We're just going to be friends. Okay, great. What are we going to do? We're going to go to the movies and we're just going to hang out. So there's this girl that you really wanted to get with, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with you as far as being an intimate is concerned, but she still doesn't want to lose you as a friend because your attention is valuable still.
The guy sees it as a second chance.
Yeah. The guy thinks, okay, well, she didn't tell me to go pound salt. She just told me that she wants to be friends. So I guess if I could just be the right enough friend, and what guys do is they get into this really kind of vicious cycle where they're trying to qualify themselves. They're prove their quality is what they do. And they end up becoming the phone friend, or the what we call the emotional tampon. They end up becoming the guys that are there to, like, the shoulder to cry on kind of thing. So when she's actually with the guys that's how these guys get set up, and they get into, if you want to know how to get in the friend zone, you accept a let's just be friends thing, right? So, or women will say something to the effect, well, I don't see you that way. I feel like you're a brother. Well, that means she thinks thinks that sex with you is incest. That's what she thinks. Okay? So get that in your head right now. If she says, I look at you as a brother, so what she's really saying is, I see sex with you as incest.
Now here's the deal though. If somebody takes the hard ass approach, like you said, it says, you know what, I'm good. I don't need any other friends, and walks out the door, then they'll shame you. Because that's all I was good for. It was just about the sex.
Yes.
You didn't care about anything else. It was just the sex. And by the way, if you ever flip that around, have you ever heard a guy ever say to you, that my girlfriend, my wife, whatever, okay, she's only interested in me for sex? No guy would ever. Any guy would go like, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. They wouldn't get all bent out of shape, but that's what they do. They try to shame you.
Well, I wrote about this in the book too, when we were coming down. I think I was talking about good girls or something like that at one point, but I got a really good friend. His name's Ray. And Ray got into a situation with a girl that actually we both knew, but he didn't tell me about that. Until finally, push came to shove, and he was trying to get with this girl who just saw him as a friend, but she was happy to use him. She was happy to have him around to be, like I said, that emotional support kind of guy. And that's how you get into the friend zone. And yes, there is such a thing as the friend zone, but it's not what a lot of guys believe it really is. Like I was saying I'm famous for saying that there is no such thing as a friend zone. There's only the distance between you understanding that your rejection wasn't actually an offer of friendship. Right. Okay. So what happens is guys will accept that, and they think that they're put into the friend zone. No, you're not in any friend zone. You're in the rejection zone is where you are. And so my buddy Ray was trying to get with this girl. And then I told him, I said, you know what? Because she had tried to give him the let's just be friends thing. And of course she ended up having sex with another guy that we knew. I don't want to throw out names here because one of them's kind of famous, but, the thing is, she just basically gave him the let's just be friends. And I told him, I said, don't accept that. I said, don't accept the let's just be friends. I say, you know what? Just tell her this. I said, tell her that you don't see her as a friend. You wanted to have something more than just friendship, and you're good with that. And don't be, and so what does she do as a response to this is she does everything in her power to get him to still be her friend. Right. It's just like what I was saying before. There's something about the female ego that just cannot accept that there might be someone somewhere on planet Earth that doesn't like them.
Now you become, when you reject her like that, you become forbidden fruit. She wants you even more now.
Right. Well, she wants you to capitulate is what she wants you to do. She wants you to because what really that is it's her trying to force fit you back into the category that she had you before. She wants to put you back into that friend zone, or with the idea, basically that rejection that's not a rejection is what it is. And so I told him to do that, and she just, I mean, for probably another 6 months after that, she was like, she would show up at places she knew he was going to be, and like, it's okay, you know, I'm sorry I felt this way, and you know, she was just trying to be, you know, she just wanted him to like her again, and not as an intimate, but just as a friend. And I said, just stick to your guns, don't do it, you know. And then 6 months later, she kind of gave up on it, and now they're, you know, they're acquaintances, at least they're polite and they're courteous to each other. But he's just like, you know, I know what I wanted with her, and that wasn't possible for her. So I'm not going to waste my time pretending that I am friends with her. Now, Alan Roger Curry is a really great guy to talk about with this, because Alan is all about mode 1, and I'm sure you were there when we were.
Oh, he had me howling at the 21 convention.
Yeah, he's really, really great. He is no nonsense, what we call direct game. Like, it's just like, hey, do you want to have sex? If not, I'm done. If you do, hey, great, let's go, kind of thing. He's very upfront and doesn't you know, doesn't mince words or anything like that. He's very much against the idea of the friend zone, because it's a waste of time. There's a pragmatic aspect of the friend zone that
I was sitting at that 21 convention with Ed Lattimore and Donovan Sharp. We were laughing so hard we were crying. I mean, I had like tears streaming down my eyes just from the material that guy was putting out. It was hilarious.
Yeah. So, and people are already asking me this, and they've asked me this a million times before. So what's the best response? My response to a woman who wants to give you a let's just be friends, you say, okay, I know where that goes. And I know, you know, you don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to go like, well, screw you, I wanted to be, you know, because what you do there is it makes you look like an even bigger beta. It makes it look like you're pandering. And that's where
don't let her see the hurt. Don't let her see the hurt.
See, that's why the let's just be friends rejection is so useful for women, because if you don't accept it, you're a dick. You're an asshole. Oh, I wanted to be friends with him, but he didn't want to be friends with me. Oh, I guess he just wanted to get me with me just to have sex.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly why. Yes.
Well, you know, and what I would say is, whenever you get that kind of line thrown back at you, you say, no, actually, I wanted to have more than just sex with you, but you've just reduced it to sex right now, because I was willing to, you know, be your friend and be your lover and be all this other stuff. I would be much more than a friend, much more than all of this stuff. But I'm not that guy. Okay, fine. I'm good with that. I'll have a good life. I'll see you later. Or just my advice to guys who get that is just don't accept it and say, you know what, and be tactful about it. Just say, I see you as more than a friend, but I understand that that's not where this is going to go. So, okay.
All right, let me get to the next one.
Can't we just be friends? And then you're just like, no, that's just where I'm at right now.
Let me get to MGTOW Samurai here. It says, Rollo, I'm willing to walk away from a woman what is this? I'm willing to walk away from a woman if I'm not getting exactly what I want from her within my time frame. Next, know what you want and don't want from a woman, and stick to that to the death.
Yeah. Well, and then that is going to. That's like the Alan Roger Curry thing. Okay, that's like whenever I talk about nexting, and we should probably do a whole show on nexting, because that's really
explain what that is for people.
Nexting means is like, next means just next, you know, like you move on to the next girl. You're done with that one and you move on to the next one. That's a pickup artist concept. Okay. It's like, it's a hard next. Okay. Nexting can be strategic, but most of the time they're going to be just a hard next, where you're just like, you're done wasting and investing resources and time and concern and everything in a non-productive investment. Okay. Like, how long are you going to keep investing money in a stock that is not ever going to show dividends? You know, how long is too long, right? I always say, you know, well, you need to have a strong 3 strikes rule, right? If you're not having sex, or if you're not, like, if she's not aching to have sex with you, maybe the logistics didn't work out, but if she's not aching to have sex with you by the 3rd date, next, move on to the next one. And people think, well, that's just a punishment. No, it's not a punishment. It is pragmatism. It is you not wasting time while a woman has to figure out why it is she will or she won't have sex with you. And that's another iron rule of Tomasi, by the way, is never always let a woman figure out why she won't have sex with you. Never do it for her. Okay. And what I mean by that is don't self-deprecate. Don't go and say, well, I know you don't help her hypergamous filters. She has hypergamous filters for a reason. Let her use those filters. Don't go and bend over backwards to say, I'd be great for you, or I wouldn't be great for you. Let her figure that out all the time.
So, I think I've quoted this movie line for you before. You remember the movie Heat, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this great line. They're talking together in it's like in a bar or a restaurant setting. And De Niro's character says, don't let yourself get attached to anything you're not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Mm-hmm. And that's what actually got him killed in this movie, because he broke his own rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that when it comes to nexting, a lot of guys get kind of choked up because they don't have options. All right. Whenever I'm telling one of the reasons I think one of the first steps in unplugging mm-hmm. is to learn how to spin plates and do it and keep doing it, because what that will do is that will make your investment in women that much more refined.
Even if you're married?
Yes and no, but I think that the plate spinning has to become something else. Okay. I've always told guys that, like, when guys put themselves into their passions or into their ambitions or into their work or whatever, that work or that passion, that ambition becomes the other woman. Okay. So if a guy is like really into, like, maybe he's married, but maybe he's into, some kind of competitive sport, or maybe he's into building his business, or maybe he's like something that he has to sort of give sacrifice to because eventually it makes him a better person. Now, women are more accepting of this if it's something that they benefit from. Right. If your passion is to play World of Warcraft, a woman's going to be like, yeah, screw you. But like, if it's something that benefits her, then she's more likely to accept that. But the idea is that once you are in a monogamous relationship, your plate spinning has to become something else. It has to be something that's, like I said, a passion or ambition or whatever. But what guys do when it comes to nexting, and I saw this $20 super chat. Thank you very much. We'll get to you in a minute.
$20. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Woohoo. But what I was going to say is that when it comes to nexting, like, guys are afraid to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. They think that by just hard nexting, they go, well, what could have been? And women and girls will pick up on this too. Like, oh, you just blew me off. You didn't know what you could have had, that kind of thing. They want to play in on that. Right. Well, the thing is like, and guys don't understand, this is actually also a game principle here too, but dumping a woman or just disengaging from a woman is often the highest form of DHV, and DHV is demonstrating higher value. Okay. Because what that does is that means that, for the most part, women are the selectors, men are the performers, right? Men perform, women select. Okay. And that's usually the way it is until guys hit their sexual market value peak. And then it kind of shifts a little bit more so that it's the guys who do the selecting and women who do the performing for them. All right. So when you're in your 20s, maybe into your early 30s, it's guys who try to prove their quality or prove their worth. Right. And the women goes, okay, I like that guy. I don't like that guy. So they think in those terms. But what happens is when you flip that script on them, it means that you think more of yourself than pretty much any girl does, right? So if you say, I don't want to have anything to do with you, I'm out, I'm over here, that is at least it's an indicator of demonstrating higher value. It's guys like saying, you know what, I know you're not into me, but there's 100 other girls out here that are. And that's another reason why I say guys need to spin plates. You need to have active options to fall back on them, because what that will do is it will eliminate the getting into a one-itis or getting into a soulmate myth or getting into this like over investing in one woman if you've already got 4 other women that are going to be productive with you if you date, sex, whatever. And so it's not as big a deal. I think it was Royce once said that, you always want to keep 2 in the kitty, right? You always want to have something to fall back on. So if you're like investing yourself in one investment, if that doesn't pan out, you've got other ones to fall back on. Right. Those are options, and confidence is derived from options. So let's get to that. Let's get to this.
The 20, Red Man Anonymous.
Okay, so Red Man Anonymous says, Rollo, you say guys lacking in looks, being shorter, etc., have to overcompensate. Well, no, I don't not overcompensate, but they do have to compensate with game, cash, etc. I agree, but don't women in the fertile years only care about looks? How would having game, etc., actually help that. Are you stuck? Are you stuck with epiphany girls? No, not necessarily. Remember that if you feel like you are lacking in one department, I think a lot of guys really get hung up on height. Okay. Understand, like, what's the average height of men in the United States? 5'9". Okay. I am 5'11 and a half, right? So it's like, ooh, boy, I'm really above average.
Towering above the average man.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like when I go and I look at guys who get hung up on that, then what I'll do is I'll say, look at Robert Downey Jr., like 5'6", right? The guy was voted sexiest man alive or something.
Sylvester
like
Stallone, 5'7".
5'7", those things. So are there ways to get around that? Yeah, absolutely, there are.
Seven-figure bank account.
And this is really kind of a topic for another show, but I've always said it's game, looks, and affluence. Okay, and affluence also means status too. Have two. If you can only have one, game is the most important, but if you can get all three, that's what you want to have. But usually when it comes to assessing sexual market value of a guy, it's a combination of those three aspects. So yes, do women in their peak sexual market value phase are primarily looking for looks. Okay. If you were to go to a high school right now and you were to ask the average 15 or 16-year-old girl what it is that they like in a guy, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, he has to look good. They are only focused on the looks aspect.
He's cute.
He's cute. I would like to get with him. It's
that
always focused on. And I wrote about this in preventive medicine.
Mm-hmm.
In the early years, from like say about 15 or 16, all the way up to right about 25-ish, is women tend to prioritize looks above everything else. That doesn't mean that other things aren't attractive to them. Okay. Age, maturity, affluence, status, all of these, like Royce calls it the 436 bullet point checklist. At the top of that list is looks, but there are other aspects that are below that. And and also depending on a woman's own capacity to attract men, she can set those priorities in different ways. So a really hot girl can demand a hotter guy, right? Well, if she's not as hot, well, maybe she's going to start looking for other things. When her necessity dictates something else to her, she's going to be more attracted to those guys. So if you go to a third world country, if you go to the Philippines or something like that, white guys are very, very attractive there, because it's not just that, it's not because they're all that hot, but they represent something that they need, right? They have the golden ticket. They have the free ride to the United States, right? They represent a better life to them. So it kind of depends on the acculturation of that girl, what her background is, and there's other aspects to it. But generally, yes, women of the sexual market value peak years tend to prioritize looks. So are you screwed? No, not necessarily. There's ways that you can. I always tell guys, I said, the first thing you need to do is get in the gym. That's the thing that you have the most direct control over.
The easiest thing. The
easiest thing you can do is go to the gym. The easiest thing you can do is lose some weight. Like, what is it? Like 68% of the United States is either overweight or morbidly obese, right? Put yourself above those guys and you're already, in the top 30th percentile. So
you look at Donovan Sharp and you look at Tex. Both of those guys were, by their own admission, morbidly obese at one time, completely transformed themselves physically.
Yeah. And what has it done? And then the thing is that builds on confidence. And so then you're more willing to take chances, which affects your game, which might affect your, hopefully it's going to affect the way that you're making some money. Now, money isn't necessarily the be all end all. Like I've said before, it's like the most sex I had was when I was at the poorest of my life. It's just, I excelled in other areas. So that's that. I've got 2 posts for you, Red Man Anon. Go look up on my site. It's Have a Look and then Looks Count. Those are the 2 that will address your question.
You got to do a third one.
We got a lot here. Yeah. We should probably do a dedicated show to looks at some point. Okay, let me read this other one. This is Abo. I don't know. Once dumped an ex after she was using delay tactics, putting me in the friend zone. She started crying on the phone for 2 weeks, acted like my girlfriend again. After 2 weeks, I was back in the friend zone. What's the reasons for that? Well, the reason for that is she went through what's called an extinction burst. And I wanted to get to this. I'm glad you brought this one up. An extinction burst. Okay. What an extinction burst is and this is my behavioral psychology coming out again. Whenever you remove a reward from an organism like a rat or whatever, if you take away that reward, like if a rat learns if he presses a lever, a bit of food will come out, right?
Yep, right.
So he's learned that action, that press lever, food comes out. Well, when he presses a lever and no food comes out and no rewards come out, then he slams tries to get it, or he runs around in circles, or he does something, or has to perform some kind of act, and he does all these novel behaviors in a frantic way to get his reward again, right? So then that's what he's doing, is when he tries to do that novel behavior and he freaks out and will do anything. That's called an extinction burst, because what you're doing is you're trying to make that behavior extinct. Okay. Gotcha. But before you get to make that behavior extinct, there's a burst of activity. There's a burst of attempting to get that reward back. And that's exactly what women go through when you decline a let's just be friends rejection.
Right.
So if you are if you're a girl's beta orbiter and you're constantly, oh, you're so beautiful, and you're constantly giving her this reward, which is attention, and you're constantly feeding her ego, and now think about all the different sources, that from which women get all of this, but you're basically one of these. But let's just say you are a friend and you're giving her that valuable attention, and now you just stop. Okay. Yep. And so now the rat's pressing the lever and no food's coming out, no cheese is coming out, right? So what's she going to do? She's going to do novel behaviors to get that reward to come back, because the attention was a reward that she had valued. You want to know if your attention is really valued or not? Stop giving it to them. And if they're completely indifferent to it, then you didn't make any difference to her in the first place. So what Ibo is describing here is called an extinction burst. Let's see. This is a $20 one, so I've got to do this. This is from Fresno State, 1776. Why do so many men default to automatically thinking a good-looking woman is good for them? Well,
it's too good for
that's evolutionary. Yeah. Is this Evo Psych? Yes, it is. Or social programming. How come across guys that think this way regardless of culture or location in the world? Yes, of course they do, because it's a reproductive opportunity.
You talked about this all the time, with thinking somebody is out of your league, out of your class.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing, is we tend to create leagues for ourselves. Like if you say that, oh, girl's out of my league. Well, first of all, that's a psychological construct in your head, right?
You've just limited yourself.
You've just limited yourself. So I always say, it's not that those leagues don't actually exist. It's that if you accept those leagues, you're never going to break out of those leagues. Okay. You're never going to be, if you keep doing what you'll never get, or you keep getting what you've gotten if you keep doing what you have done. Okay. So, yes, it is. What you see, if you see an attractive woman, and then they've done neurological, I think it's fMRI studies of this. Is it fMRI? Maybe it's not. And neurological studies, that when a man sees a half-naked woman, or he sees a centerfold or whatever, and he gets aroused by that, it triggers the same section of his brain as tool use. Okay. And what that is,
well, you will be using your tool.
Now, this is the Rollo Tomasi completely unscientific reason for this. The reason for that is because your brain, your hindbrain, sees reproduction as a problem to solve, and men are natural deductive problem solvers. So men tend to, and this is real hard science. Men tend to see women as a collection of parts. Right? They see legs, they see ass, they see boobs, they see whatever, and then they see the whole. Right. So maybe it's like they see they're not seeing the forest for the trees, basically, when it comes to set, but they're trying to solve a reproductive problem. And so how do I do that? Well, I need to use tools to solve a problem, right? I need a hammer to hammer the nail, kind of thing. That's why it triggers that part of men's brains. And so when you say, well, why do guys automatically think a good-looking woman is good for them? Well, of course they do. I mean, what would be better? A little apple, a little teeny tiny kind of mealy apple with some worms in it, or a really big juicy fat apple? Which one are you gonna go for? Which one has more survival benefit to you? Well, of course, the big one, right? We know that. That's why when people say, well, you shouldn't be judgmental, or you shouldn't judge a book by the cover. Bullshit. No, you have, that's your natural
physical appearance. Yeah.
Because you know what? Because your judgment can often lead to life or death decisions. So yes. So that is why. What was that last one? I kind of missed that last. There was another one on there.
So the Fresno State, is
okay,
that the
so here, Drapeto Man or Drapeto Man, whatever. Alan Roger Curry grouped women into 4 archetypes: reciprocators, manipulative, time wasters, wholesome pretenders,
time
and
wasters?
erotic hypocrites and rejectors.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's nice. I understand the archetypes, and I understand the need to want to categorize those archetypes.
Right.
So that's one of the people are at one point. I'm going to have to actually do a dedicated video to this too. But people get upset with me when I say that I really dislike Carl Jung. Okay, and the reason for that is because he feeds into his theories feed into categorizing or pigeonholing people or archetyping people. Now, remember that when he talked about archetypes, he didn't come up with that. Okay, that was from anthropology. It was like there are certain archetypes that kept reappearing over and over again. He just took it and ran with it and added like mysticism and psychology to it. Okay,
Right.
But what happens is when we archetype people or when we categorize people, we do that. Why? Because it gives us a sense of control over them. That's why silly things like astrology or Myers-Briggs stuff, people eat that up because it gives them a sense of like being able to understand something a little bit better or understanding a person, because what's more chaotic than a person, right? Than what's going on in your head. And wouldn't it be great if we could just say, oh, you're an astrological sign, so you're always like this. Well, yeah. Well, why do we do that? Well, because it gives you a sense of control over them. And I can't just pick on Jung. I have to pick on Robert Greene here too, because he does the same thing in Art of Seduction. He sort of pigeonholes women into different archetypes as well. And I'm not saying that there isn't something to those archetypes. What I'm saying is that there's there's a reason why we rely on them or we overly rely on them. And I think that that's where things get unhealthy.
Let me jump in here. I got a question that, in fact, I was just talking about this yesterday with a lady. So when it comes to men and women, okay, so if you're a guy and you're in a relationship, should your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, your partner, okay, should she have male friends? Should she be allowed to have male friends? Okay, guys, I want to bring up gay guys. Okay, women say, yeah, I've got men, but they're gay. They're gay. They're not a threat to you. They're not interested in me sexually. What is the problem you see with women who are in relationships who have male friends, but they're gay? Is that safe? Is there a problem with that?
I would say that, and this that's a good question, and I think it kind of dovetails into what about women who have nothing, who prefer their male friends above their girlfriends, right?
I've known women like
more
that.
male.
Yeah, they're closer to guys than they are to women because they don't like the cattiness of the women.
There's a few things. There's a few layers on top of this one. Okay, one of those layers is men tend to, particularly beta men who are invested in one woman, tend to be a lot more prone to mate guarding. Okay, and that's so you gotta. We're just gonna throw that out there. I'm not gonna cover that just yet, but guys will have a tendency to want to mate guard. Now, I've always told guys, I said, if that's the case, this is the solution to the problem, I think. But I should women be allowed to have their gay friends? Should women be allowed to have male friends? Should they be allowed? Yes, they should. But what you should do with that information is base your own judgment on what her behavior is. We were talking last week about the medium is the message. Is she constantly going out on girls' night out? Is she constantly hanging out with her gay male friends? Is she constantly hanging out with other male friends all the time? Most of the time when a woman is with one guy, she sees that guy as a hypergamous potential. Like he's the main guy. He's the A guy. Right. And then there's a whole bunch of B guys. We've talked about the plan B guys before. I think we've talked about that. And so I've read the statistics about how women have, I think it's like 45% of women have a plan B guy in case their plan A guy doesn't pan out. I don't think men should overreact.
That includes married women.
Married women too. And, I think it's like something like half of the guys who are with those women know the guy. They actually know who the plan B dude would be if he ever dropped the ball, right? So you want to talk about dread. You guys shouldn't use dread. Well, women use dread naturally, and this is exactly how they do that.
What were the two types of dread?
There's passive dread and there's active dread, or overt active dread. Active dread is more like an ultimatum. Passive dread is going with sort of third-party social proof dread kind of thing. That's the easiest way. There's much more complex than that. But so what should you do, or what's the reason for that? Well, usually the reason is a woman wants to keep you on as her main guy, but she still likes the attention. Remember, attention is the coin of the realm in girl world. So she still wants to have those beta male orbiters. Some guys are cool with that. Like some guys are just like, you know what? I know she's not going to get with those dudes. And I think that a lot of guys don't understand how valuable that is to them sometimes, because what that woman is doing is if she's got a lot of, wimpy beta male orbiters that just simply prove his quality for him. They do all the heavy lifting for him because they're all simps and they all just want to, fawn all over her. And he's the guy that doesn't do that. And he's the guy that she keeps going back for. He's the alpha in that case. And these guys are the betas. And so sometimes that works to your advantage. In other way, the only time it doesn't is when you are not the apex alpha in her life. So let's just say amongst her orbiters, there's one guy who she really wants attention from, but he doesn't give it to her. Now, is he trying to score on your girl? No, maybe not, but she's after him, right? So in those cases, what I would say is just look for the behaviors and watch what she does, and then decide for yourself. I think this is really the starting point for any guy, is decide for yourself. Is she worth your time? Is she worth the investment? Is a woman who does this, whose behavior belies her motives, is what she did. A woman who does all this, is she worth your time? If you are not her number one, if you are not her first priority, remember we're talking about the ladders. If you're not at the top of that friggin' ladder, then is she worth your time? I always tell guys that, like, when you unplug and you get back into the sexual marketplace, the first thing you need to do is you need to adopt the idea of you being a prince. You are the prize. You're the one that your attention is valuable. And that's a key concept of red pill awareness, is that your attention should be the most valuable thing to her. Because remember, attention is the coin of the realm. Yep. And so if you're a prince, then cutting out or carving out a little bit of time from your schedule, she should be honored to have that. That's why, when we talk about Prince Harry and stuff like that, and we talk about Meghan Markle and stuff, it's like she should be thanking her lucky friggin' stars that the Prince of England wants to have anything to do with her, right? Well, but who cares? Because he's a beta chump, right? But he values his own attention. I mean, by default, by definition, a prince's attention should be a big deal. But that's what you need to adopt, and that's what you need to. First of all, you got to adopt that mentality and the mindset, and then second of all, you actually have to prove it. You got to be the guy that is that. We got another one here
on availability when it comes to women. Does a guy hurt himself if he makes himself
too available? Yes, available. Absolutely. Well, what did we just talk about? When I was telling you about my friend Ray, what happened is he was giving this girl all of this attention, and he was there for her. And it's like, come and remove the snow from my yard. Okay, I'll go do that. The guy was Johnny on the spot, thinking that the more dependable, the more loyal, because that's what women say, right? I want a guy who's loyal, and I want him so dependable, and he's got to be funny, and he's got to love puppies, and he's got to love his mother, and he's got to come from a good family. And it's like all of this stuff, right? Well, when that guy is like that, and he's Johnny on the spot for her, that's when anything too easily had is devalued, right? I mean, that's the law of power is increased value through scarcity. And so if you prove yourself as being valuable, if your attention is valuable to that woman, and then you pull that away, well, what happens? She's going to follow. If she finds your attention worthwhile, she's going to follow after that attention. And then she might even go through what we were talking about before here, go through an extinction burst. So if she really values your attention, and then you pull that attention away, she's going to try to do something to reinitiate her to come back and get that same reward. Remember, it's behavior and reward. It's really all this comes down to is behavioral modification. It's operant conditioning, what it comes down to.
Hey, real quick, Drew Bay just picked up a book. I don't know if you saw this, but imagine if it was the other way around. He picked up a book. It's called "How to Destroy a Man Now." It's a handbook in the age of Me Too. Can you imagine if a guy came out with a book that said that about women? What the reaction would be? Be over the top. But this is totally cool. This is how to get back at your guy. Somebody does you wrong, you blow them up.
Yeah. Well, and then there are a lot of books like that. I mean, just the title of that in this day and age seems like it's outrageous. It's not. If you go, I would challenge guys to go through like Barnes and Noble or wherever and look through the self-help
Oh,
the
that's what you're
self-help
talking
section. It is all titles that are almost identical to that. How to get a guy in, or why men lead, or why men love bitches, or something like that. We got a super here that I didn't get to. It's Roman Brodsky. He says, where is the gray area between mode 1 upfrontness versus a frame that challenges the woman to earn your attention as the prize? Well, it is a gray area, right? I think that there, like the only place that I don't even want to say this is a point of conflict, because it's not really a point of conflict, but like when I talk to Alan about his techniques, it's like I said, don't you everybody, this is a common criticism. It says, don't you think that in the age of Me Too, that being as upfront as you're talking about could get you into a lot of trouble, right? Yeah, if you had some sort of pretext beforehand. If you just meet a girl in the club and you do that, you're probably okay. But if you had some kind of prior relationship with that person and then you do that, yeah, you might get into trouble. Yeah, you might hurt yourself in those cases. But so what is the gray area between being upfront? Like I think that game is very useful. Okay. I think game does work. Okay. But then there is active game and there is just wasting your time. All right. It's one thing to go out and to run like mystery method or something like that on girls. Right. But if it's not working out for you, or if you're like MGTOWs love to say, it's the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Well, but you still want the juice, right? So you've got to find some way to go about doing that. But I think it's really the distinction about investment and over investment. Is like, that's why I say there needs to be some hard and fast rules for that. One of them, I think, should be initiating a 3 strikes rule. That's as old fashioned as you can get, right? If after the 3rd date you're not, if she's not hot and heavy for you, or just begging to tear your clothes off, it maybe you don't believe in premarital sex. But if she's not like withholding herself from tearing her clothes off, then you move on. Then you go on to the next thing. But even that, like if I just me giving you the 3 strikes rule, I think probably Alan would say I'm wasting my time with even 3 strikes. It shouldn't be 1 strike. It says the answer is yes or no. If not, then move on to the next.
Here, I want to get a couple things in. One of the things you had in the preview for today's show, episode 17, is there any way I can turn a girlfriend into a girlfriend, like sexual kind of girlfriend?
If you know her prior, or if you have a history with her prior, I would say no. Can you do that? Yeah, but again, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like for instance, I've known guys who have been in like social circles, and they wanted to get with a girl, right? And the girl wanted just put him in the friend zone, didn't want to have anything to do with them. And the guy's like, oh, screw it. Okay, I'm done, right? And then he goes off somewhere. He goes off to the military for 4 years. He comes back after 4 years and he's a different person. And suddenly he finds that the girl who rejected him is all over him and wants him, because he's become something different. He's not the preconditioned, preconceived guy that she knew in high school. He's become something else. So I think that and it's never really worth it, right? But like, let's just say for sake of argument, you think that this girl is worth it. Take some time away from that. Remove your attention. Say, you know what? I'm putting you on ice. You don't even have to say that. You just say that in your head. Just ghost, cut her off. And I've done this myself, by the way. I used to know there were girls in high school that I did not. I was never going to get with. I knew they're never going to be my girlfriend or whatever. And then I had to disconnect with them for about 4 or 5 years. And then I got into playing in bands, and I was going to, playing in Los Angeles. And then I would meet these girls like later on in like, say, community college or something like that. And they couldn't keep their hands off of me, right? The beta chump was gone, and the new alpha image was there, and they wanted to have everything to do with that. But if you're if she sees you as a friend, I think this is a Pook quote too. If a friend she sees, a friend you will always be. Okay. And so can a guy get out of the friend zone? Not through works, not through proving your quality, not through even saving her life. Like I've read guys say, well, guys try to get with these girls after they save them from like a wild animal or something like that. I mean, it doesn't that sound like something that would be based on evolutionary psychology? Well, if I saved her life, then she'll want to have sex with me, or she'll want to, prove her undying gratitude because I saved her from this. No, hypergamy doesn't care. If you're a chump and you save her life, it's not going to get you in there. It's what her initial perception of you is. And so if you remove that from her for a while and then you come back later and you're somebody different, then then maybe you can get out of that. But is there a way out of the friend zone, directly? No. In fact, I think, and I wanted to get to this too, is when guys talk about the friend zone, that's probably the worst thing for themselves, is because they end up putting themselves into this self-fulfilling prophecy, or it's what's called the negative feedback loop. I'm in the friend zone, I'm in there. And that leads to more of the same kind of behavior that they think will get them out of the friend zone, only amped up to 10, right? Now they think that if they can just amp it up to 10, then they can prove themselves, because the guys in the friend zone still believe in one fundamental thing, and that is that their belief in their blue pill conditioning will see them through.
Yeah, and that's really started this today too. There was a commercial, I can't think of what it was, but last week, where a guy gets friended, by a girl in the commercial. Did she just put you in the friend zone? Oh, she just put you in the friend zone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that particularly today in the Me Too era, women hate the idea of the friend zone. They absolutely hate it. And I think this is one of the questions I put in there as well. The reason they do is because, one, it exposes their game. It exposes the utility of a let's just be friends. And what happens is when women do the let's just be friends thing, I think even now they're reluctant to do that because they know what it's setting themselves up for. Then now he's a friend, and now he's just going to be constantly texting me, and now he's going to be calling me, and she's going to be trying to get off with somebody who is an alpha guy, and this guy still wants to be the friend. And what happens is that eventually that guy's dedication to her to prove himself ends up being a hindrance to her to get with more alpha guys. And so then she gets pissed off at him and wants to cut him off completely. And that's where beta guys go, what did I do wrong? Or they turn into like these kind of violent, potentially violent incels, right? Nobody, TFM says this all the time, but it's like, there's no such thing as an incel. If you have $20 in your pocket, you can go find a woman who will get you off for X amount of dollars. So it's not that. So why do incels stay incels? Because they believe in a failed mindset, which is their blue pill conditioning. They believe that what they do should work, and it never does work for them. But they'll still keep trying everything. I saw this one documentary on incels at one time, and one of the things that almost all of the guys that they interviewed said was they tried everything. They did everything. They tried pickup artistry. They tried to be nice. They tried to be all this stuff, and it never paid off. It's like, but why is that? Why is it not working for them? Well, because their concept of sex is transactional. It's, if I give and I give and I give, then suddenly I'm going to get something reciprocated. It's a savior schema.
You say it every week. Genuine desire cannot
be negotiated.
Okay, so we got a little bit of time here. I want to do a wrap up on this, but I want to get to the bonus question too. So, all right. Final thoughts on this. If somebody's stuck in the friend zone, how do they get out of it and into a relationship with that person, or is that not possible? You're wasting your time. Just move on.
All right. There are purple pill hacks who will tell you that it is possible. Okay. Now, is it possible? Yes, it is possible if that woman's condition is reduced so much, if her ego and her self-image is reduced so much that she says, you know what? Well, I might not have been able to get all of these guys in my dreams, but I still got this schmuck here. And then maybe she throws him a bone.
She's settling, though.
She's settling. Yes. Is there a way out of the friend zone? Yes. And it involves women settling to take you out of the friend zone and to accept you as an intimate. And you know where that happens? That happens in the epiphany phase. That happens when women, they know that they can't, whether they consciously recognize this or their hindbrain is telling them this, they know they can't compete with their sisters anymore. And they know that they have to check out of the sexual marketplace. And so what they do is they go, okay, well, he's not as hot and it's not exciting and he's kind of a dork, but he does have a good job and he loves his mother. And I need a guy. So they're going to settle for that. So a dude who might have been in the friend zone when the girl was, say, 26 or 27, suddenly he's on the intimate ladder, right, at 29 to 31.
So if you've got a woman that's somewhere between 29 31, that age range, all of a sudden she's interested in you, but before she wasn't. Right. I mean, there's all sorts of red flags.
You show me a guy who got out of the friend zone, and I'll show you a guy whose girl had something change in her life that made him suddenly acceptable to her. Like her conditions changed, or his conditions changed, but mostly it's her conditions changed. And so that made him, like, her priorities for her intimate acceptability switched so much so that he could be put on the top of the list. So it's not because he did something, it's because her necessities necessitated it that he would get in there. So real quick, can it happen? Yes, but do you want to be a part of that?
real quick story before I get to the other one. I talked on my local program with you about one of my listeners, a guy. He was a Marine. He's about 38. He's divorced. He's got 2 kids. He's back out there in the real world, the dating game, right? And it's funny. He told me he went to a church here in Tulsa, pretty prominent, well-known church, and he joined one of these Bible study groups for single parents, single men, single women, that had kids. And he told me, he says, so far, and he's only been doing it for like a couple of weeks, he's already had 2 women in the group who have kids. Okay, they're divorced. They're really not looking. They're not looking for a long-term relationship. They just want to have sex with him. One sent him a partial nude. The other sent him a complete nude. This is a Bible study. A Bible study at a local church. This is how hot the game is. I mean, nowadays it's like, well, you would expect that play, not there, not at the church. That's exactly what's going on.
Hypergamy does not care. It does not care about convictions. It doesn't care about pretty much anything except for itself, except for what it needs. And so if that's propositioning a guy in the Bible study, then that's what that means. So again, hypergamy doesn't care.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Speaking of religious topics here, I got one last super, and that's MGTOW Samurai again. He says, Jesus Christ had his own version of it. A prophet is never accepted in his own hometown. Even he could break preconceived notions of him to those who knew him before he was a rabbi. Just saying. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's kind of a far-fetched analogy, but it's true. Like if you remove yourself from a situation, like if you go and you look at 48 Laws of Power, like we were talking about before, and one of those, I want to say it's number 10, but it's like increased value through scarcity. So if you're part of a group and you pull yourself out of that group, you'll become more valuable when you return to that group because you've removed the reward of you. You've removed the assuming that
plus overexposure. You've heard the saying, familiarity breeds contempt. Too much of you.
Too much availability makes, and this is just laws of economics. Too much availability makes the price go down.
Yeah, let's get to the bonus question. I want to give credit where credit's due. I actually picked this up off an old episode of Tom Likas, but a guy sent him an email, and it was basically talking about the fact that his wife was giving him the silent treatment. But what he wanted to tell Tom Likas about was the fact that she thinks she's punishing me. He goes, I actually like it. He said, she didn't talk to me for 3 weeks straight. He said, it was a slice of heaven. It's everything I wanted. He said, I got a pretty woman that I'm living with, and she can't talk. She won't talk to me. But she thinks she's hurting me. She's punishing me. So comment on that one. Is it a punishment? Is the silent treatment a punishment or a reward for guys?
I think what the guy's doing is he's kind of joking around because like guys who have nagging wives are just going to say, hey, man, she shut up for a little. That was my Christmas present. Right? You get those little coupons like go and play Xbox for 2 hours and I won't say a thing. Well, what that says to me is you've got a really screwed up relationship with your girlfriend or your wife right there. But No, I think that the silent treatment is something that is a technique. I mean, we're almost a lot like let's just be friends. There's a lot of classic, what I call social conventions that women will rely on. Let's just be friends is one of those.
What about guys using women? Guys give women the silent treatment.
Guys do too. It means something different though. If a guy gives a girl silent treatment, it's almost, if you want to test what your SMV is, or if you want to test where you stand with your woman, give her the silent treatment, or get into a position where you are pissed off about something and you're not saying something. I tell guys this, I said, if you can get to a point where your silence inspires more dread than your words, or your silence inspires more imagination.
Like for me, like everybody in my life, if I'm not talking, okay,
right,
even with my kids,
what's wrong.
What's dad mad about?
Why?
Who
Why?
Why is he pissed off?
He's cracking. How about this? He's going to be cracking skulls pretty soon.
But here, how about this? I just talked for 4 hours in a row on the radio, okay, and I need a little break. I mean, even if I'm just trying to be, quiet and toned down, but my silence is perceived as something. Maybe it is, and sometimes it isn't.
And that's how you can, if you want to determine whether or not you're alpha or not within your own relationships, do that. And if she says, "What's wrong, honey? Why is," if she's concerned about you, she'll say. But if you do that and she doesn't say anything, or she's indifferent to it, usually that means or worse, she thinks that you're pouting, right? Or you're being, I'm gonna be a quiet guy over here in a corner, right. That kind of shit. If she sees you as that, then you can determine whether or not, where you kind of stand with her. Is she seeking you? Is she who has the frame? You want to know who has a frame of the relationship is the one who goes to the other. Remember what we said about the power dynamics. The cardinal rule of relationships is the one who has the power is the one who needs the other one the least. So if you do that, or if you act some way out of character, if she follows up and tries to figure out what's wrong with you, then she cares enough to want to be in your own frame. But the other side of this is, like, when a woman does this and woman is silent, I think women do that because they want to see if you're going to follow up. They want to see if you're going to do the same thing. Like I was just saying, when a man gives a silent treatment, it's different than when a woman gives a silent treatment. Because when a woman does that, she's testing to see how solid your frame is. Like if you're going to go to her, that means your frame is not as solid. Like if she's giving you a silent treatment and maybe you had a dispute, or maybe there's something else going on, right? If she's doing it as a deliberate act, or she's playing that kind of game, it's usually to see if you will reestablish attention with her.
Jack Murphy talked about that at the 21 convention with his daughter, one of his daughters. He says when she gets like that, he says, I completely ignore her. He says, completely shuts it down, because all she wants, she's trying to get my attention. And when I don't give it to her, it backfires on her. Real quick, another question or comment I got from a lady listener this past week. Okay, trying to figure out. So, what exactly is it that you and Rollo do? Do you just talk about the problems or explain what the problems are, or do you train people to be alpha? And I'm sitting there for a minute. I said, that's interesting. I don't know that you can train somebody to be alpha. You could show them what the alpha qualities are, but can you actually train somebody to be alpha if they're beta?
I happen to like a lot of people. There's a lot of discrepancy, and there's a lot of people think that you're born alpha, that guys, either you have it or you don't have it, and that it's some sort of biological, that you're predisposed to it. And I think that that's probably true to an extent. I think most boys are born alpha. I mean, as far as their behaviors are concerned, like we want to act out, we want to risk take, we want to display a lot of the same characteristics that we would and otherwise say that, well, that's an alpha characteristic in a guy, right? But it takes like a social conventions to sort of breed that out of the guy, or to condition that out. That's why I call it blue pill conditioning. Now, do I train guys to be alpha? I don't necessarily train guys to, but I think that by analyzing things like just what we've been talking about here, by going subject to subject, and making guys aware, or giving them the tools to become more alpha, they can take those and they can do that on their own if they see that that's what they need to do. You and I think really need to do an all alpha or all beta topic where we just talk about those two terminologies. I still see alpha as I don't see it as a comparison to like silverback gorillas or wolves on the tundras, right? I see it as a placeholder term. It is an abstraction. So it's an abstraction for an idea. Really, that's all words are, really, is just abstractions for ideas. And that's when I talk about alpha, it's always really hard because guys want to turn it into whatever best defines themselves, right? Well, a real masculine guy or a real alpha guy does what I do, right? He's a leader of men, and he's a pastor, or he's whatever is pro-social that they can think of that would qualify them as being that alpha, right? Well, then of course I say, well, there's plenty of alphas that are in prison right now, and if you don't believe me, just look at all the women who want to get with them on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So the alpha has more. It's not. I've always said this. Alpha is as a mindset, and it's not a demographic.
Plus, there's a lot of guys that they could be like the CEO of a company. They're alpha there, but when they go home,
yes,
mommy's in charge.
Well, that's my biggest discrepancy with Jordan Peterson. He's very, very beta when it comes to intersexual dynamics, but I don't really necessarily see him as alpha as it is anyways. But he's
not red pill. He
is definitely not red pill. But like I've worked for guys who have been very alpha in the boardroom, and they are complete betas when they're dealing with their wives. So it's how much are you willing to put up with? And I can tell, like I've said this before, there is such a thing as blue pill alphas. There's guys who are very commanding, but their mindset is stuck in blue pill conditioning. So they end up becoming, like I said, the worst white knights you'll ever know.
My dad is like that. My dad is a tradcon. Very religious. He is blue pill, but there's no doubt that he's the alpha. Okay, but he's not an alpha. He's a blue pill alpha, not a red pilled alpha.
Right, and that can be red pill betas too. So it's one thing to have all of this information and read the Rational Male and do all this great stuff, but never put it into practice, right? But to never really you can be red pill, but if you're a beta guy and that's just where you're at, I mean. Now, naturally, what I say is this, okay, when people ask me this question, are you teaching guys to be alpha? I'd say this is I'm giving guys tools to change their lives with. So if that's the direction they want to go, sure. If they want
starting with the rule book, because the Rational Male, the way I explain this time and time again to my listeners, is it's the rules of the game. Women have known the rules forever. Guys are playing the game, but they're playing by a different rule book. They don't know or understand the real rules. And when they do, that's when their eyes get open.
Right. And then what's interesting to me is when I wrote the first book, which is the most significant one, which is, like you said, the rule book, and I look at the other books that come after it, like Preventive Medicine and Positive Masculinity, those are supplements to the rule set.
Right.
Here I am. I'm a gamer, right? So here's the rule set and here's the supplements to that rule set. So that's kind of like how I look at that. But so I put out the rule set, and oddly enough, still the best-selling book that I have, still considered the Bible of the red pill. And what happens is it turns out that guys say, I read your book and it saved my life, or it changed my life, or I was going to kill myself and I didn't, or I used the information in this book to change my life and to parent my kids. I used it to pull myself out of a really bad situation. And I used it as a tool, as sort of like a guide, like a rule book, to change things for my life. Now, one of the reasons why I don't do prescriptions is because I can't possibly tell every guy on planet Earth who's been acculturated differently, comes from a different ethnicity, might be older than me. Like, I sure as hell ain't going to tell you how to live as I don't know how old you are, 55 years old guy, right? I can't tell you to do that because I don't have your experience and I don't know anything about, like, your Roman Catholic. I don't know. I can't give you those things, but what I can do is I can give you an outline. I can give you, I say, here's the predictable things. Here's what we're observing right now. And you can take that information and can use it to better your life. So yes, in a way, sure we are, but guys are taking that and they're building themselves. I don't have 12 steps for life. I don't have a plan for every single guy to go from beta to alpha, because every guy's journey is going to be different for that guy.
I was drawn to your book initially, and well, actually some of your columns on the site, to better understand myself, to better understand why I am where I am and how I got here. And then also looking at it as a father with two sons. Michael's 21 and Dave just turned 20, right? These guys are out in a world that is completely different from anything that you or I grew up in. And the rules, the advice that you might have given yourself when you were 21, it doesn't even make sense in this world now. because everything's just so upside down.
Right. Well, but implementing it is different than knowing what the rules are. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion that the rules don't change. It's just the context and the way that they're applied changes. So like women are going to be hypergamous no matter what, whether it's this generation or generation 10, 10 generations ago. Hypergamy is hypergamy. How you can, and this, I'm just using this as an example, but how that gets expressed is based on what the society views as appropriate and does not view as appropriate. So after the sexual revolution, hypergamy became unfettered, and it's the Wild West right now. So yeah, you're right. It's a whole lot different from us, but those rules still apply. So understanding what women will do if they have half a chance is something that is good knowledge, but how you go about applying that is based on whatever the zeitgeist of the time really is. So
let me throw another one at you. I got from a listener here in Tulsa as well. You talk about guys and women want the alpha, and they also want the provider. But they rarely can find that in the same person. If they do, it's like a unicorn. So that's why they wind up maybe marrying the beta, but then on the side, like that guy we talked about a couple of weeks ago, his wife had 5 kids, all from different men, none of them him, right? Because she was satisfying that need on the outside. So when it comes to guys looking for women, can you find everything you want, everything you need in one woman? Or are men now going to be a little bit like women in that, well, maybe I can get this from her and that from her?
I get what you're saying. It's like, this is actually the Madonna whore complex, but it's a little bit different.
You call it the Madonna whore complex?
Madonna whore. Yeah, you never heard of that before?
No. Is it Madonna the singer?
Well, what it is no, not the Madonna. No, Madonna as in the Virgin Mary, and a whore, right? Okay, because this is supposed to be analogous to
Madonna whore.
Alpha seed and beta need, right? It's the same thing. Like when women are looking for a guy, they want to find a balance between the guy who is the alpha excitement, fun, the guy that she wants to breed with, the guy who's a good, sex partner, versus the guy who is the beta provider, who's dutiful and dependable and would make a good. It's cads versus dads. Okay. The same thing applies for women. Okay. There's the Madonna and there's the whore. There's the whore that's the fun girl in bed, who's the porn star that you want to have sex with, who's crazy in bed or probably crazy out of bed. That's Jenna Jameson. Okay. And then there's the good girl who would make a good mother and who would raise your kids and everything, but she's not going to be as good and as fun as the Madonna, but you still want both, and you still want to be able to find both of them in the same girl. I think guys kind of delude themselves that they can do that. I think that there could be a happy medium between those two. Sure. Again, we talk about unicorns all the time, right? We want a girl who's like a porn star for only us. Like my quote is that everyone.
Yeah, but how does she get those skills?
Exactly. Well,
right. 10,000 hours.
Every man wants a slut. They just want her to be his slut. That's what they want. But what you're getting at here, like I said, it's the Madonna whore complex is. That's the balance of those two elements within that same person. I think that because of the sexual revolution and because we've unfettered hypergamy, that women no longer look for the quote unquote good guy. The good guy is the guy who can be the amalgam of both of those guys. Like, he can be the fun alpha dude and can kick ass and take names when he wants to. And he's the really exciting guy who's a little bit dangerous, and mix him with the good dad who's parentally invested and all that. Women don't even look for that guy anymore. They only look at two different things. They look at the guy who's alpha and the guy who's beta. Excuse me. And they become different people to attract those different things. So like and I should say that they are more attracted to those guys at different times in their life. That's why.
So the Madonna whore complex you came up with, that's a Freud's the guy that came up with that. Listen to what it says here. Madonna whore complex is the inability to maintain sexual arousal within a committed, loving relationship, formerly known as marriage. And that's why the excitement's gone.
Well, because it's it's familiarity, right? We tell this to guys all the time too.
There's no more mystery. No more mystery.
There's no more mystery. There's no more challenge. And what is it replaced with? It's replaced with familiarity. It's replaced with rapport. It's replaced with comfort.
Yep.
It's replaced with predictability, right? And those are good qualities. Those are you want that, right?
Predictability kills romance.
But all of those aspects are anti-seductive. Those are not, like I said before, as like the guy, like, you're never going to have the hottest sex you've ever had on a date night, all right, because it's contrived, because it's an obligation. But if you get into a knockdown, drag out, breakup fight with your girlfriend and you come back together, that's going to be an explosive sex session right after that, because you almost lost that person, and because it's for real, man. I mean, it's something that I dodged a bullet, right? So there's that anxiety and that urgency, and that's what stimulates sex is that immediacy, the competition anxiety.
Yeah, I've actually known guys, okay, who would deliberately start shit either with their wife or their girlfriend for only one reason. So everybody get all mad, upset, but it was for the makeup sex. Why? Because the makeup sex is always the best.
Because you can get to that, right? Yeah. I think a lot. I have guys that talk to me about that, and I think most of these unplanned, quote unquote, unplanned pregnancies between like couples that were going to split up happened when they were having makeup sex. And think about why. Because here's a woman who dodged a bullet, who almost broke up with this guy. Wow, I better have sex with this guy, and I better get pregnant, right? I would say that there's probably, depending on like the emotions involved and whatever, because remember, emotions are also triggered by they're triggered by environment, of course, but they're also triggered by internal things too. Like when a guy, for instance, wins something, or his sports team wins, or he defeats somebody in combat, or he defeats someone, that there are measurable rises in testosterone, right? Why? Well, because women pick up on that and they go, this guy's a victor. This guy is going to be the one who's going to stand on top of everybody else, and I want to breed with him so that we have strong babies with this guy. So there's that aspect, and that's just one example of how we have these subconscious motivators that will facilitate fertility. It will facilitate pregnancy. So let me go real quick here. I want to just get these before
smash the like button.
Yeah, please hit the like button. Yep. We need to do a little housekeeping here too, but I want to run through these real quick. Ibo again thank you for the €10 chat, super chat. I think the most important factor for a woman in friend zoning a guy is the time factor, because time equals money. Time is the only not renewable resource we have. That's why ignoring works so well on women. Yeah, I think that for women it's a little bit more urgent too, because hypergamy can't afford a losing bet. Okay, so if a guy is already been determined to be a friend and put into the friend zone, she doesn't want to waste time with that guy, because she could be using that time to be breeding with another dude.
Right.
The next one.
You got the one from Army Parrot?
I will here in a minute. LPFV says, hi, Rollo, would you recommend The Art of Seduction? Yes, I would, but read it with a grain of salt. It's the one Robert Greene book I would say I disagreed with some aspects of it, because I think Robert still has a lot of blue pill concepts. But
48 Laws of Power, you got
48 Laws of Power is great. Art of Seduction is good, though. I think that if you can get past the archetypes thing, the rest of it's really good. Yeah. Okay, Army Parrot. My ex told me, usually when I meet guys, I wasn't functional with you. But with you, I am. It is a mature relation, one of many things. She was 31, turning 32. Yeah, of course, epiphany phase. Well, yeah, of course she's going to say something like that. She's one thing, and guys hate it when I say this, so I'm going to say it. One thing that happens with, when women are in a position of necessity, they will cater themselves or try to convince themselves of things that they might not necessarily convince themselves of otherwise, because they are in a necessitous place, right? So one thing, like guys always say, well, when we talk about how women will fake orgasms for alpha men. This is study. This is a statistical study or statistical research. Women tend to fake orgasms for alpha men, and they don't fake them for for beta men. Now beta men go and say, oh, well, that's because we take care of our women. You know, she comes first, right? You know, that's what they throw out there, but they don't, what they're doing is they're avoiding the ugly truth of that is that women will fake for alpha guys because they want to keep the alpha guy interested in them. They want to think that they want that guy to believe that he got the job done, and that because maybe he didn't, but maybe she comes back around, or she wants to, she thinks the guy is so high value that he's worth doing the faking for. Beta men are not worth faking an orgasm for. And that's exactly what that's kind of the same dynamic that this guy is saying. Is like women who are like 31, 32 years old. I never got off with anybody before, but I do with you. Yeah. Well, I should put this link in there. I've got this one essay called Moment of Clarity, and it was a case study I did with a guy who was, I think he was 28 or 29 years old, and just like I was saying before earlier, he had gotten to a point where all these women that didn't want to have anything to do with him back when he was in his early 20s or maybe even in his late teens, suddenly they're all interested in him, and he can't understand why. And what?
So the last one left.
Because, well, he's not the last. Yeah, the last one left, but he's the last guy who doesn't know any better is what it is. And the guy had a good job, and he was a good prospect for long-term security in the future, a good beta provider. So he believed that, suddenly women see him as attractive because of that. They don't. They just see him out of necessity. Right. But blue pill guys like to convince themselves and create rationales for themselves to sort of fill in the blanks, to say, well, she loves me, she must love me, right? You know, my ship has finally come in, I'm going to go with it. You know, they just simply don't understand where they fit in the role of things in that woman's hypergamy. All right, so let's I need to throw this out there. Please, if you have not done so already, go to my website and look at the post, it's the one before this, for the 21, that's actually this one, the 21 convention. Please go to the 21 convention. If you are interested in the, if you're a man and you are married or you're divorced, if you're a father or you're wanting to be a father, the Patriarch's edition of the 21 convention is happening on May 3rd through the 5th. And that is going to be in Orlando, Florida. I'm going to be speaking there. You are going to be speaking there as well. They are, Anthony is, the 21 convention is now an official sponsor of this, at least as far as this convention is concerned. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you want to register for that, if you want to support me, go to my link. If you want to support Pat, do you have a link out for yours? An affiliate link?
No, I don't. What I've got is my my Facebook and my Twitter account. I think there's also to the radio station for the podcast with you.
There we go.
Hey, okay. real quick, we ask people to smash the like button. Also, post this on any social media you can. Spread the word. You were talking about your books. You've got 3 so far, but the one, and I agree that the Rational Male, the first one, is the most important. Okay, but second in line is going to be this 4th one you're working on, on religion, because this is why I'm extra interested in that book, because religion actually is the enforcement arm for the feminine imperative. That's the people like me, when I formally identify myself as a trad con, we're the goon squad to keep the other guys in line so they don't step out and everybody acts in uniform.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the reasons I'm writing this book. I originally started because I wanted to help Christian guys, but it's sort of the whole thing has become I don't want to call it a manifesto, but it's going to be a significant book on the red pill and religion. But yeah, you're correct about that. And we were just what were we just talking about? The woman, not the Presbyterian. The woman who melted down she melted down all the purity rings.
Yeah,
and
she's the chick that
vagina.
Is all pierced up. She she just gave the award to Gloria Steinem
a
couple weeks ago. Nothing like seeing an 80-year-old skeleton in tight leather pants, boy, to scare you away.
If you want to know what we're talking about, just check my Twitter feed. But I forget her name. I suppose I should know her name.
She's a Lutheran pastor from Denver who masquerades as a Christian, but she's completely hijacked the religion, the philosophy, and supplemented it with everything that she's about in her congregation.
And what I find chilling is that people are following this. People are going along with this. They had the Beyonce sermon at that one Catholic church that was in San Francisco not too long ago, and it was all about feminism. And I think I'm probably going to talk about this in my upcoming Religion in the Red Pill podcast, which I'm going to do tomorrow. I should say I'm not going to do it today. I suddenly got a gig that I have to do for work, so but I will do it tomorrow, and we'll probably end up talking about how. Well, first of all, how feminism has assimilated modern religion, but also how that feminism is served by the religions themselves. So I'm probably going to talk about that tomorrow as well. But yeah, as far as let's see what else.
By the way, I just found what you had here. Is it Finding God at the Beyonce Mass?
Yes.
Was this in a Catholic church or was it?
I think it was. It said Saint something or others. Was it? Maybe it was a. I don't think
it's Grace Cathedral, San Francisco. It's got a female pastor up there, so I'm gonna say it's not Catholic.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know.
I'll find out.
But what I think was interesting is that as soon as, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, but as soon as women get into positions of power, as soon as they are accepted as like, say, the voice of God, right? Which, because really, what are you doing? As soon as they become a legitimate authority for that religion, the first thing they do is they turn that religion into Unitarianism. It's no longer about the faith itself or the articles of faith anymore. It's about inclusivity. It's about bringing everybody under the roof.
Did you say that you were raised in the Unitarian Church?
I have a really interesting religious background. My mother was very evangelical Christian. My father, on the other hand, was very atheist. And then I mean, like, to the point where I'm not talking like Sam Harris atheist. I'm talking about, like, he would talk about it and give lectures and stuff about atheism. And then when this will get you, then my parents split up, right? Okay. And how they came together, I don't know. But when they split up and my dad got with his second wife, she was Unitarian. And then suddenly we become Unitarian. Right? Suddenly we're going to go to the Unitarian church. And it's not about, my dad was, of course, still held to his atheist beliefs, but he was willing to go to a Unitarian church with who became my stepmother at the time. Because I think he just did it just to get in her good graces, because my dad was a very confused beta guy, and was willing to make those compromises. But I was, when in my teenage years, I used to go to a Unitarian church and a Unitarian youth groups and stuff like that. And then
Unitarian churches tend to be very progressive.
Oh yeah, very liberal, very progressive. Very
first place feminist. I ever saw that had what I would call a gay marriage, but they didn't call it that. They called it a hand fasting. Yeah. It's a
whatever. It's the partner bonding, or I don't even know what the hell to call it. But yeah, they're very, and of course, when I am like 14, 15-year-old kid in the 80s. What do I know? I don't care. And then so once I got out of that, and I started living on my own, and when I was going to college, I started taking like comparative religion courses, and I started digging into it a little bit. And then I kind of refound my faith later on, which was my mother's faith. It was really kind of like planted that Christian seed in me, but I never felt at home in evangelical churches. I never felt at home at Unitarian churches.
So where do you feel
certainly home? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what to call myself, to be honest with you.
You're like Bono. You still haven't found what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll tell you what's really interesting is my mother is a confirmed Catholic right now too.
Get out of here. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Wow. So she decided to go Catholic after that. So my mom is, my parents are really, really interesting. My mom's kind of a lovable ditz, and my dad was like, he was like Mr. Spock, he was like very analytical, and that's where I get that from. Is like my rational analytical side comes from that, but my kind of goofy crazy side comes from my mom.
They're both still alive?
My dad passed away in 2010, and my mom probably won't last the rest of this year. My mom is,
I know you've talked about your mom,
bad shape. So yeah. I take care of my mom right now. Like, pretty much she's dependent on me. And so I go and I do shopping for her, and I love my mom. So
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right. We gotta wrap things up here. Okay. And, well, we'll pick up. I guess you're on with me Friday.
Yeah, I'm on with you Friday. That usually goes at 9:06 a.m. on Friday mornings. That's Eastern time, 9:06. And you can find, of course, the Red Man Group, which is on our new time at 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturdays. And then tomorrow, I'll post this out there. So if you're already following me, you'll get the notification. But I'm going to do Religion in the Red Pill tomorrow. So be sure to tune in for that if that's your cup of tea. And that's it, man. I think we hit everything.
Enjoy the snow.
All right, man. Yeah, I am. I'm gonna. Yeah, I finally dug out my my sled, so that's probably
Cool.
gonna be Tuesday. So,
All right,
guys.
talk to you next week. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.